He knows stuff we don't know. As you point out, he's very well connected. He probably knows how afraid the British establishment are of Nigel, and he probably knows the facts that they are absolutely convinced that he will end up in 2029 in number 10. And you know what? This is yet another massive, monumental blow to the Conservative Party. And we're going to be seeing a hell of a lot more of this over the next 5 years, Dan. I'll tell you that, because Reform UK is the only party in Britain with any sort of momentum, any sort of true popular backing. And I know we've seen some pushback recently from people on the right on social media. However, they represent an angry, shouty minority. The real people, the people who count, and the people that the British people are actually going to listen to are all standing with Reform.
Do you know what? Sometimes a video sums up the mood of the country. And sadly, when Slippery Starmer turned on the Christmas tree lights at number 10 Downing Street last night, it reflected our flat feeling of despondency and languid acceptance of our fate as a country in decline for at least 4 more years.
You please join me when I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! It worked. Nervous moment there, but it's all good.
It's not all good, Keir. It's really not all good. As Steve Miller put it, this is awful. Couldn't inspire the thirsty to have a drink. So indeed, this video feels more appropriate for the moment.
Can you please join me when I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! It worked!
And look, while I'm no major fan of AI, we've got to have some humour in our downfall, right? Even if the MSM now seem to believe that some bawdy jokes from a working-class MasterChef presenter is a more important story than the destruction of our economy, handing over our artefacts, and undermining the Brexit vote. Not to mention the previous decisions to throw our farmers under the bus, take heating away from war pensioners, and declare class warfare by adding VAT to private school fees. And what about the hope? Where does that hope come from? Well, perhaps in the form of this man, who is potentially about to be supported by a certain Mr. Musk to bring an anti-woke revolution to the UK. The legacy media remain tone deaf about Nigel Farage, of course, but more people are taking note by the day. As Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef revealed earlier, betting markets now price a 30% probability Nigel Farage will be the next Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Just over 6 months ago, they priced a 30% probability he would win his race in Clacton. Reform has unprecedented momentum in British politics, and we know Farage didn't just win Clacton, he romped home. And no wonder they, and by they, I mean the deep state, I mean the establishment, I mean the mainstream media, I mean globalist forces, no wonder they wanted to keep Nigel out of the House of Commons for so many years, because he is using his position to become the spiritual leader of the parliamentary opposition, as Kemi Badenoch, the new Tory leader, flusters and fades. Take Farage's forthright opposition to the immoral deal to give up the Chagos Islands.
The presentation of what the American administration believes is a fantasy. Joe Biden is going. In fact, many think he's gone already. I have been contacted by very senior officials and advisors from the incoming Republican administration, and every single one of them is appalled at this deal. They know the leasehold agreement will not survive, just as the deal with China over Hong Kong didn't survive. Hasn't the time come for the government to admit this is a rotten deal for the UK, a rotten deal for America, and an even worse deal for the Chagosians? And if you care so much about the sovereignty of the Falklands being in the hands of the Falkland Islanders, why not have a referendum of the Chagosians and ask them to settle who should have sovereignty over those.
Critical thing for me about this story is not necessarily the Chagos Islands, although, as you know, I'm completely furious about what Starmer is proposing. It is the fact that it's Nigel Farage who is now setting the agenda. And we know what happens when he does that. First, he did it with Brexit. Then he did it with the illegal invasion of our southern border via small boats and the unacceptable explosion of legal migration. And the challenge for him is whether he can now do it on the need for wholesale reform of our entire system. The MSM might continue being in attack mode towards Reform UK, with woke ITV trying to convince themselves that Farage remains an unpopular political figure, and Sly News suggesting his surge in youth support is down to online radicalisation. But just like they were in the US with its dishonest support of dementia-plagued Joe Biden and incompetent Kamala Harris, by backing the awful quartet of Slippery Starmer, Angela Rayner, Rachel Thieves, and Looney Lammy, they are signing their own death warrant. But now, the Superstar panel. And I'm delighted today to bring in Nicholas Lissack. He is a young Reform UK supporter. He was featured in that Sly News hit piece earlier today, so we will speak to him about that. And Suzanne Evans, my friend, conservative commentator, writer, and also someone who previously had a close working relationship with Nigel Farage at the UKIP party. And Suzanne, look, you had a bit of an experience like Ben Habib. So how do you feel about this Farage surge, this Farage momentum at the moment? Can you see your ex-colleague becoming Prime Minister?
You know, Dan, I've never been one to hold grudges. And yeah, Nigel and I might have had a run-in, but I really do hope he genuinely does become the next Prime Minister, because I think Britain needs somebody like him. I, like so many people around the country, are sick to death of the kind of lib, lab, con, the three main parties that really don't seem to give a damn, quite honestly, about what a lot of people in Britain think. You know, they've all gone completely woke. None of them seem to be in touch with ordinary working people and those of us who run businesses. Migration has been an untrammeled failure. There's been no integration. You know, multiculturalism as a philosophy has completely failed. We've got the small boats issue. We've had high taxes under, well, you know, I thought in 2010 when the Conservatives got into government that we might see lower taxes, but oh no, George Osborne just kept putting them up and up and up. And now we are here with Rachel Reeves' disastrous budget, which is going to do anything but deliver the growth she kept talking about before the general election, and it, almost in a deluded way, keeps talking about now when she's doing everything in her power, it seems to me, to completely quash growth and make it completely unlikely. You know, Labour's manifesto was a complete pack of lies, as far as I can tell. All kinds of things that they never said they'd do, and not done things they said they would do. So the whole thing is a disaster. We're all fed up with the lib lab com. We desperately need change in this country. We need to get back to British values. We need to do what people voted for in the EU referendum. We need to take back control of our money, our borders, and our freedoms. And Nigel Farage, seems to me, is the only person that can do that. However flawed a personality he might be, and we all have our flaws, let's be honest. Yeah, I really hope he does. And it's quite interesting to see recently Elon Musk supporting him in the way across the pond. Some of Elon's tweets have been quite astonishing, really. I've got slight concerns about that. You know, one of the things that Nigel has faced is allegations that he's been supported by Russia. Complete and utter rubbish. But of course, we also criticised, I think quite rightly, President Obama's intervention in the Brexit campaign. So I'm a little bit concerned about somebody who's not a British national appearing to try and interfere in the British electoral process. But nonetheless, I do think what Elon Musk is saying is very interesting, because he has now become a kind of litmus test for wokery, hasn't he? Or anti-wokery, I should say. So in that sense, I think his support is very welcome.
Well, absolutely, because I guess he sees the UK now as the unfinished business. This week, he was talking about cancel culture being cancelled. Not in the UK, where people are being locked up for sending posts on X. So I think Elon Musk's support could be hugely significant. And this week alone, he has predicted that The establishment party, so Labour, the Conservatives, the Liberal Democrats, he didn't name them, but they are the establishment parties, that they will be crushed at the next election. And after Dame Andrea Jenkins defected, he predicted that Reform UK will win the next election. So after this meeting with Donald Trump and Nigel Farage at Mar-a-Lago, he certainly seems to almost be endorsing Farage via X, which is the most important platform in the world where he has the biggest voice. But Nicholas Lissack, as a Reform supporter, do you have any of the concerns that Suzanne raises, and certainly that the left will raise, about foreign interference if Elon does indeed decide to donate this $100 million?
Well, firstly, I just want to praise Suzanne real quick for putting the country above any petty personal squabbles she may have with Nigel. It's absolutely vital that we get him into power by 2029, or quite frankly, the country is toast, especially with the fact that we've got 4.5 years left to contend with Labour. And going back to your question, Dan, no, I don't really have any concerns. I think, honestly, this is just absolutely incredible. We see many people in the establishment in Britain saying, oh, this is foreign interventionism. Well, as you point out, they didn't really have that opinion when Barack Obama came over in 2016 and demanded that the British people vote to remain in the European Union. And as we saw, that ended very poorly for him. But ultimately, I believe that Elon Musk, especially considering what he's only doing with X, he has turned X into the global town square. It is so unbelievably important that we have his support. And you know what? That is only a good thing. Starmer has quite rightly, I mean, he's relaunching his government for a reason, and that's because the likes of Elon Musk have really put his feet to the fire, and they have exposed him to the world as somebody who is really quite an insidious figure. So you know what? I think that the support that Reform, and especially Nigel's receiving from Twitter, from Elon Musk, is absolutely spectacular. And you know, all of these lefties out there who are going to criticize Nigel for accepting the support of a foreign backer, well, you know, I think in some respects they're almost a bit jealous. And they're also quite afraid, because although they like to say that, oh, Elon's an idiot and that, oh, he doesn't really have that big of an influence, this is actually something I have heard before, which quite frankly shows the extent of these people's delusion. Elon Musk is quite possibly the most influential man on the planet. He is the kingmaker. In my opinion, he actually got Donald Trump back into office. It was Elon's support and his $100 million super PAC that really helped push Trump over the line. So in my view, if he does supply the money to Nigel and Reform, that's a game changer. And you know what? All the establishment parties, the Lib Lab cons, they can kiss 2029 goodbye. It's going to be Reform's year. It's going to be a Reform slide. And you know what? I can't wait to see Prime Minister Nigel Farage. It's going to be spectacular.
But first, you know how often I talk about the need for free speech to be protected, but I've been increasingly thinking of the need for personal protection from snoopers, bad actors, and hackers online. And I'm delighted to tell you I've now found the fail-safe solution. But what's more, this VPN, or virtual private network to use the full term, is also a life changer when it comes to providing you entertainment and information from anywhere in the world, wherever you are. So let me introduce you to Surfshark, an incredible and easy to use service that encrypts all your internet traffic, meaning your online activity stays safe so you can shop, stream, browse, and conduct your banking online in complete privacy. But the benefits of Surfshark go way beyond keeping you safe online. It allows you to access your favorite entertainment and news shows and channels, including to streaming services like Hulu, iPlayer, HBO Max, and Peacock. Or if your favorite show is blocked on one of your existing services, like Survivor, for me here in the UK on Netflix, but it could also be on Amazon Prime or Disney Plus, within seconds you can be watching as if you're in another country. If you're traveling for work or on holiday, you can also get all your favorite content from home, including sports. And also, this is an insurance policy against creeping censorship in many countries. For example, France has blocked Rumble for many months now. No issues if you've got Surfshark. You can watch anything, anytime, anywhere. It is true freedom. A VPN can save you money too, because you can get the best deals from websites that change their prices depending on where you're buying them from. And there are other benefits too. You can use Surfshark on unlimited devices. As you can see, I've got a few here on my computer, or your entire family can stay safe with just one subscription. And with over 3,200 servers in 100 countries. There is a world of choice at your fingertips. And if this is your first time using a VPN, there is 24/7 customer service available to you. So if you go to right now, surfshark.com/outspoken, you get an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. What's more, Surfshark so confident they're the best VPN in the world that you can give it a try for a full 30 days. And if you're not entirely satisfied, you will get your money back. So go to surfshark.com/outspoken for an extra 4 months of Surfshark at an unbeatable price. Just click on the link in the description box below. But now, back to the show. All right, at the perfect moment, some breaking news. Look at this. After 32 years in the Conservative Party, Tim Montgomerie, former advisor to Boris Johnson and creator and editor of Conservative Home, has joined Reform UK. And there he is pictured alongside Nigel Farage and Zia Youssef. Well, Suzanne Evans, look, I know part of the joy of Reform UK is the fact that they are not so reliant on the Westminster establishment. But a figure like Tim Montgomerie is so connected to the Conservative Party in every way. This is going to be devastating for Kemi Badenoch, is it not?
That is very interesting indeed. Now, of course, Tim Montgomerie supported Robert Jenrick for leader of the Conservative Party. He no doubt must have been very disappointed that he didn't win that. And I suspect you might think, and I certainly do, that Robert Jenrick's philosophy and certainly his leadership campaign was much more in tune with reform thinking than Kemi Badenoch's was. So in one sense, this isn't a surprise. Of course, in other senses, it is an absolutely surprise. And Tim Montgomerie might not be a household name to the ordinary man and woman in the street, but certainly for the Conservatives, he is absolutely a major name and a major influential figure. And the Conservatives will miss him, I think.
Nicholas Lissack, massive blow for the Conservatives.
Huge blow, an embarrassing blow. I mean, this just goes to show that the momentum in British politics is with reform. He wouldn't have left the Conservative Party if he hadn't had good reason for it. He knows stuff we don't know. As you point out, he's very well connected. He probably knows how afraid the British establishment are of Nigel, and he probably knows the facts that they are absolutely convinced that he will end up in 2029 in number 10. And you know what? This is yet another massive, monumental blow to the Conservative Party. And we're going to be seeing a hell of a lot more of this over the next 5 years, Dan. I'll tell you that, because Reform UK is the only party in Britain with any sort of momentum, any sort of true popular backing. And I know we've seen some pushback recently from people on the right on social media. However, they represent an angry, shouty minority. The real people, the people who count, and the people that the British people are actually going to listen to are all standing with reform. So you know what? This is absolutely incredible. I'm welcome to the party. Absolutely welcome. Big welcome from me. I know he's probably not watching this, but huge welcome. And you know what? He is the first of many, or in this case, the second of many, after Andrea Jenkins, who, by the way, is absolutely spectacular. So yes, this is really terrific news.
Suzanne Evans, look, I really like Tim Montgomerie. You know, there will be people who are to the right of the Conservatives who say these types of defections, and we saw Ben Habib say something very similar last week here on this show and on other platforms. There will be people who say this will dilute reform's message. Do you have concerns about that?
No, I don't. What I do agree with Ben Habib is when he talked about reform constantly targeting Conservatives. And I think he was right about that. I think that's wrong. I think there are many people on the left of politics, certainly voters on the left of politics in those so-called red wall seats, if you like, that are very much aligned with reform thinking. And I do think it is a mistake for Reform and Farage to purely go after Conservatives because they look like a kind of an offshoot of the Tory party. And I actually think reform is something much more important and potentially something much bigger than that. And I know when I was in UKIP, there were conversations with some Labour members of Parliament as well about defecting. They didn't come to anything for various reasons. But you know, people think I seem to be a far-right extremist most of the time, but I think that just shows you how far most people have gone to the left. I think I have some political views that are quite left-wing, and I was certainly very much at home in UKIP, and with that ideology, which of course is carried through into reform.
Yeah, indeed. Big day for Reform UK. Another major defection, just repeating that breaking news. Reform UK announcing after 33 years in the Conservative Party, Tim Montgomerie, former advisor to Boris Johnson and creator and editor of Conservative Home, has joined Reform UK. The reason that this is so significant is that he has been a bit of a moral compass for the Conservative Party. He's certainly not on the right of the party, but I'd say he's on the centre right of the party. But what he does is bring a huge amount of respectability to Reform UK. He's also, let me tell you, a very decent, honourable man. And he's someone who absolutely believes in Thatcherite principles. And remember, just yesterday, I was posing the question of whether Margaret Thatcher would have defected to Reform UK if she were alive today. And I think Tim Montgomerie's defection at least points in one direction. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.